Welcome back for Season 3 of Jori Sports Stories. And guess what? Today is the 1-year birthday of Jori Sports Stories, so in honor of that, we've got a lot to talk about. We'll discuss both weeks 3 and 4 in the NFL, the whole head coach hot seat thing, Dame Lillard finally getting traded, Jori's jacked up tears, and more. So tune in, turn your volume up, and let's get it as always. For the first time in a while, we start off in the NBA as we have long-awaited news with Dame Lillard, a small James Harden update, and a little bit more. Without further ado, let's get it. Alright, so a little bit of breaking news. Damian Lillard has finally been traded, and it wasn't to the Heat. Congratulations to Portland for standing your ground and not giving in to trading Dame to Miami to where he wanted to go. Congratulations to Portland for getting the best possible deal. And also congratulations to Damian Lillard for being able to finally play for a contender. And he can stop all of this foolishness, and I don't have to hear from him or about him until basketball season really starts. They did all this media day and stuff. He sounds happy to be there, even though I highly doubt it. But the Bucks gave up Jrue Holiday, which, if you ask me, I'm not doing that. I'm getting rid of Chris Middleton. I'm keeping Jrue Holiday. But, who's going to want Chris Middleton because he's older, has some health issues. But he's still a pretty good, decent player. But Giannis does not have an excuse anymore. I would like for Giannis to shut up too, because he's been crying and going on about all offseason about him wanting to be a winner and him also being a part of the Bucks forever and da-da-da-da-da-da. And just a whole bunch of nothing. Doesn't make any sense. So, the way, if you think about it, in the basketball mind, Giannis and Dame are kind of like a pretty good fit together, if you think about it. Dame don't do a lick of defense, but he'll drive the ball. He's a spot-up shooter. Giannis, we all know what his shooting is sometimes, but Giannis is also very physical. He can kind of pick Dame up on the defensive end. I kind of doubt Milwaukee's ability to have that nice defensive depth to cover for Dame, because the Lopez brothers are old. You have Giannis. You have Chris Middleton, who's decent. I can't think of the rest of them, but you getting rid of Jrue Holiday, who's a really, really good two-way defensive player, is probably going to sting a little bit. Not going to lie. But the Bucks should be favored. It should be between the Bucks and the Celtics. I'm actually looking more towards the Celtics, even though I'm not supposed to. I'm a Lakers girl. I'm going to give them their credit. They did their big one by flipping Marcus Smart for Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis, even though the unicorn can't stay healthy. So, there's that. The Brooklyn Nets expect Ben Simmons to be a full participant in training camp. And I expect $100 million in my bank account by tomorrow. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. Now, if it do, more power to him. But I really want Ben to be at least a fraction of himself, if that makes sense. I don't think he's ever going to be up to the potential that he could have been before. I don't know what happened to him. The Hawks series happened to him. I don't know what happened to him to traumatize him from shooting. I don't know what broke him psychically, but his psyche. But I want, as much as we clown Ben Simmons for being soft, you want him to restore himself to at least a fraction of what he once was. Even though I highly doubt that's going to happen, he is what he is at this point. All bark and no bite, because he always posts pictures on Instagram talking about he's shooting in the gym, but he can't shoot a ball in a real game. So there's no correlation. No correlation. Let's see. Kevin Durant has committed to Team USA. LeBron and Steph. I think Steph is already committed too. LeBron is thinking about it. AD's thinking about it. Are we getting another dream team? Do I need to watch the Olympics? Because I've stopped watching Olympic basketball because it hasn't been worth it. Do I need to watch the Olympics upcoming? Because this will be the one. I just don't think LeBron and AD need to be in the Olympics, and they barely I think they need to conserve their energy for playing with the Lakers. Like, that's just my personal opinion. Maybe I'm sounding a little selfish or whatnot. That's just my personal opinion. But I'm excited to see it. And I'm glad to see that everybody's trying to band together to bring some more gold medals to the United States. I'm glad. That's nice to see. James Harden finally shows up for camp. James Harden is becoming one of those names that trigger me too. Because I want him to stop his foolishness too. But if he tried so hard, like as hard as he tried to force himself out of situations, because now I think he's doing it to make people uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to be here. So, geez. I want him to be professional about it, but yeah. If he tried as hard as he tries to force himself out of places to win a championship, the man will have 3 or 4 rings. And we're talking about him completely different. If he tried hard to win a championship. But with him, what team would want James Harden? I'm not touching James Harden for free. His style of basketball is not conducive to winning a championship. Now, yes, ship him off to somewhere where they can't contend right now. Get him off your books. He might be happier then. The pressure's off. But as soon as you put some pressure on him, he's going to fold. Even though this past series, he was fine. But I put that more on Joel Embiid, but not on James Harden. But he's known to quit. He's known to no-show in the playoffs. Maybe you need to tell him. You just need to send him somewhere to like Charlotte or something, who would have no business competing for a championship anyway. That's my take on it. Next, we head to the bulk of today's episode, the NFL, where we cover some notables from both weeks 3 and 4. We discuss whose job might be on the line, some major movement in Jori's jacked up tiers, and more news and all of that. We got a lot to discuss. So, let's go. I'm going to start off this NFL segment talking about HotSeat Watch. I'm so glad that the Chargers have finally figured out how to win a game, but Brandon Staley still doesn't need a job. Like, he is the most fourth and one-ing-ist coach in the name of aggression. And I think it's just flat out stupidity because he does it in stupid spots. Like, why would you go for it on 4th and 1 in your own 24? Why would you go for it on 4th and 1 on your own 17? Why would you do that? And then last week, it was Kirk Cousins that saved his job, bottom line. This week, if he had did that and it had been against any other team other than the Raiders, they would have scored and Brandon Staley would have been left on the tarmac. He's just the king of stupidity. Like, Kirk Cousins saved his job. Let's just say that. He made another dumb decision that almost lost them that game, and then, he followed it up the next week with the debacle against the Raiders. 3 years of dumb decisions in the name of aggressiveness, and he's still doing the same stuff. He still has a job. He's a defensive-minded head coach, but his defense is absolutely horrible and overpaid. They just traded J.C. Jackson back to the Patriots because it wasn't working. They made the Patriots take him back. I don't know what's going on, but do the Chargers realize that they're wasting Justin Herbert's time in his prime? They're wasting it. Matt Eberflus, whatever. Also not a good coach at all. The Bears are even more of a mess this year than they were last year, and they just gave up a 28-7 lead. Because Justin Fields, he played perfect through 3 quarters. That fourth quarter, I don't know what the game plan was for the fourth quarter, but if it was to sell, okay. Because he completely fell apart in that fourth quarter. But Eberflus, also another defensive-minded head coach with the putrid defense, hasn't done much of anything to make or help Justin Fields to grow and develop as a quarterback. They're losing and losing badly. What has he done? What have this organization done other than bringing in DJ Moore? No. Josh McDaniels doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to take a certain coaching style and adapt it to today's culture, today's players, kind of tweak it so that you get along with everybody. His players are over it. And I'm saying his because he got to take accountability for the mess that is the Las Vegas Raiders. They're over it. The foolishness of the Raiders on the field speaks for itself. Josh Jacobs said he's tired of losing. And he's tired of being told that the same 5 or 6 plays and da-da-da-da-da. Y'all heard the quote. He's tired of it. Of it going in one ear and out the other. Devontae's frustrated. They might not be Raiders for much longer. And now what? Because you really can't fire McDaniels because guess what? The Las Vegas Raiders are also cash poor. They can't afford to fire him. He flamed out in Denver. He flamed out on Indy. I don't blame him. He's not working out in Vegas. Maybe it's time for Josh McDaniels to do something else at this stage because clearly coaching isn't it. Now, we are going to cover a little bit of week 3, followed by a little bit of week 4. I'm doing week 3 because I missed it in a timely manner because I haven't been feeling well. I apologize. But I'm going to go in with week 3's Titan Talk because that week 3 game was horrible. I've came to the conclusion that Andre Dillard is trash, and he's still trash. He just wasn't as trash on Sunday. Defense was on the field way too much. Now, we fixed that on Sunday. We fixed it because we lost 27-3 versus Cleveland, and then we turned around and beat the Bungles, 27-3. I still cannot wait until Skoronski and Nicholas Petit-Frere come back because I do not want to see Andre Dillard on that line anymore unless I absolutely have to. Secondaries. Just last week was just a bad week. Just proved that last week against the Browns, the game against the Browns was a bad week. Mental mistakes. This week, little to none. For the most part, we got to clamp down Jamar Chase. And I'm proud of him. Period. And T. Higgins got hurt. And we didn't let nobody run the ball either. So, there was that. And we had about 3 sacks, 9 quarterback hits. We'll go into that a little bit later. But more on week 3. Cleveland versus Tennessee. We'll go through a few of these games before I head to week 4. Tennessee had nothing going on. Once again, offensive line issues. No run game. Very limited pass game. Did not score a touchdown that game. Got lucky with a field goal. Defense was on the field way too much. Get worn down and exposed. Yada, yada, yada. Must-win situation this week. I knew it. And that's why they won this week. The Clowns were able to move the ball up and down the field with relative ease. Deshaun Watson was very slippery. Myles Garrett wreaked havoc on the left side of that Titans O-line, and they ran the ball quite efficiently. Indianapolis and Baltimore. The Todd Monken offense, as predicted, was going to take some time to get it to click. Now, they whooped up on the Browns this week. They did. Still, doing some of the same stuff from last year, even though Zay Flowers has come into his own. Lamar, on the one hand, is also coming to his own. But last week, they were very sloppy in that game. The run defense didn't play too well, which they fixed it this week. The lack of ball security cost them the game and got out-coached in bad clock management, which wasn't a problem this week for the most part. The Colts were able to move the ball down the field, at times with relative ease, getting chunk after chunk. That's how the Colts do. Chunk plays. Defensively, they tightened up when they needed to, and that defensive line is borderline top tier. And Zach Moss was a key to success for them. Now, I'm going to address a very embarrassing game for certain people. If you're a Broncos fan, we're going to address the Broncos-Dolphins game. Did the Broncos defense even get off the bus? Russ didn't play too bad, but he wasn't that good. They couldn't stop a nose run. Sean Payton, Vance Joseph need to take some sort of woosah and get it together. The Dolphins had their backups and third stringers in scoring. Tua put on a clinic before sitting out pretty much the entire fourth quarter. They had about 5 different running backs and Devon Achane that scored. Everybody got theirs, and they were still scoring. Now, they're better than me because I would have kicked a field goal. Actually, I would have went for a touchdown. I don't want to just break a record. I want to shatter it. And I want you to live with it. That's just how I go. But people got carts. I don't. Jets, Patriots, they have other issues than Zach Wilson. And we'll talk about the Jets in a minute. This team is overall very, very prideful and immature. Finger pointing, going off on coaches on the sidelines, liking dumb tweets. Aaron Rodgers was like the literal glue of this team. Without him, they have nothing. Nothing. Zach Wilson's confidence is plummeted due to this. And here, I don't want to sound like I'm defending him, but I am going to defend him a little bit. Because all of this ragging on Zach Wilson is unnecessary. He needs a boost. You kind of feel bad for him when you think about it. All of these people are unnecessarily ragging on him because he's in New York. And that offensive line is horrible. Mac Jones was able to make the plays necessary. This was last week versus the Jets, not this week versus the Cowboys. We'll get into that in just a second. Judon and company got the necessary stops and did get to Zach Wilson. Now Judon is out. He's on IR. That's going to cause the Patriots some issues. Now, despite that, the New York Jets still had a chance. They didn't turn the ball over this game, I don't think. Bills, Commanders. The Bills terrorized Sam Howell. He wasn't ready for it. They didn't score until 46 seconds left in the game. They sacked Howell 9 times, picked him off 4 times, and forced the fumble. They had a lot of offensive line issues. The Commanders. The Commanders had offensive line issues. The Bills, they were just a juggernaut, and they just treated the Commanders as fodder. Front four didn't generate any pressure on Josh Allen. They were very quiet that day. And the Jaguars and the Texans. Now, C.J. Stroud will be around for a minute. Houston's defense is legit. That was D'Amico Ryans' first win. And C.J. Stroud looks to be dang near a top 10 quarterback already. On the flip side, the Jaguars came out flat and didn't get anything going. You had a whole bunch of drop passes from your receivers. Your defense forgot how to tackle. And I would like for people to quit automatically giving the Golden Pony Boys this division. Thank you. Now, we're on to week 4. In week 3, I didn't even cover all the games. But we're on to week 4. And first, I'm going to talk about the low-hanging fruit club because I'm so sick and tired of hearing about them. Zach Wilson. We all know what Zach Wilson is. I know what Zach Wilson could be. He could be a starter in this league. He could be. I've seen flashes. I've seen, last week, Sunday. You saw that he could actually lead a team. And he could be a little bit more mature. We saw that. I just think that we know that the Jets situation is a bad situation as far as the offensive line and them not being able to get the offense rolling and Hackett and everything. Give it a rest. We don't have to unnecessarily rag on the man. And I feel like people are using this opportunity to just say anything, and it's not right. Russell Wilson. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about Russell Wilson not playing well last year. He's playing better this year. Give the man some credit. It's not conducive to winning football right now because the defense can't stop a parked car at a red light, but defense couldn't stop anything. He can get you enough points to win a game. It's up to the defense to stop the team enough times to win a game. They haven't been able to do that. Justin Fields. I'm tired of, with Justin Fields, it's an iffy narrative. Because I feel like he still has the potential. He does. And he's been put in a situation to fail, if you ask me. Flat out fail. They fixed the offensive line, even though I think it's worse this year than it was last year. The defense is still horrible. You paired a young quarterback with a defensive head coach. That's literally one of the worst head mistakes you can make as an organization. You're setting this man up to fail. And Luke Getsy doesn't know what he's doing either. Now, Sunday, they did play a lot better. Justin Fields was perfect on Sunday. This is why when the Bears do Bears things, it's not always Justin Fields' fault. Now, granted, he does have his moments where he does not play very well. But he only has about 0.5 seconds before he got to get a ball out of his hand or take off or take a sack or do something dumb, which we've seen all year in 4 weeks. So I don't know what y'all expect me to do with that one. We know what to expect when it comes to the Bears. And crying about a tush push and people attempting to do it. Now, there are players getting hurt because other teams are trying to adapt their form of a tush push. And my thing about that is, listen, if you don't have the personnel to do it, don't do it. If you don't have a solid offensive line to do it, i.e. the Giants, don't do it. Because it's not going to work. Actually, you could get yourself hurt. The Giants. Anyway. Into our Week 4 analysis. We're going to start with the Cincinnati Bengals. Just go through a few teams. There is an issue in Cincinnati, whether they like to acknowledge it or not. The big one is Joe Burrow is not healthy and it's costing games. They do have offensive line issues, whether or not their fans want to admit it, you do. 4 games, 8 sacks given up, and a plethora of quarterback hits. Why continue to put him behind that offensive line and continue to watch him struggle to even move? The offense isn't nearly as efficient, and now they're 1-3 and 0-2 in a good division. They're slipping, and it's not like last year where we felt like we knew that they were going to get it together, or the year before that where we knew that they were going to get it together. They're slipping, and it's different. They might not even make the playoffs this year. And it feels weird to say, but it's true. Now we're going to talk about the Chicago Bears. Everything is not Justin Fields' fault right now. Like I said, Eberflus has no idea what he's doing. He's lost the players. He's lost the locker room. A defensive-minded head coach with a pathetic defense. Your offensive line is worse. Outside of DJ Moore, the wide receiver room is subpar. Chase Claypool is single-handedly talking himself out of there. Now, did he lie? No. But did he need to say that? Heck no. And that's why they told him to stay home. That man got told to stay home. He's a healthy scratch. He's done as a Bear. They're going to get up off of him or just flat out cut him. And good luck finding another job because of your locker room presence and the fact that you tend to be a cancer in the locker room. Good luck, Mr. Claypool. Your defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. Justin looked pretty dang on perfect until the fourth quarter, and that's when they collapsed. I'm thinking that play calling had something to do with it. Neither here or there. Pittsburgh Steelers. Is it Pickett or is it Canada's the issue? They've been toying with dysfunction for a minute now. Their defense is banged up. They can't run the ball very, very well. Turning the ball over more as well. O-line is week in and week out ticky-tack. Mid-tier. Matt Canada needs to go before any further turmoil arises. Because it's going to happen. They're going to have to deal with this one. But the Dolphins. Defense isn't there yet, albeit better than it has been. But the secondary without Ramsey is questionable. They needed to be humbled. Also, showing signs of frustration when they aren't quite used to being behind. That's a worry, and playing from behind. If they can't come from behind and win from behind, they're going to have an issue. But I have a strong belief that they will shake back. Baltimore Ravens. They look good right now. But as always, they are banged up. They have a decent defense that just swallowed the Browns' inexperienced quarterback because they didn't have Deshaun Watson. Lamar right now looks good. Connection with both Zay Flowers could be very lethal. We're seeing it start to bloom. Rashad Bateman and Odell Beckham Jr. are hurt. And what's new? What's new? Next, we got the Vegas Raiders. Josh McDaniels needs to go. But the Raiders are so cash poor they can't afford to cut him. Fire him. He's losing the locker room, the players. He calls dumb, not smart plays at inopportune times. Last game, Sunday. Your defense is atrocious. You put a rookie on blast because they didn't make it any easier on him. When your team that you play the calls for, that you call the plays for, that you coach, didn't make it any easier on the rookie quarterback in his first start. Hearing Devontae and Joshua Jacobs get irritated with losing means, one, them two are probably going to be out the door soon. Two, he's lost the locker room. And once you lose the locker room and then you lose the fans, you're going to go. They're going to get rid of you. There's that. And they could have won that game against Brandon Staley because he literally gifted them that game. But they gagged. Another team that's gagged is the New York Giants. I genuinely feel bad for Dable. He's a good coach, and now he's stuck with this hot mess of a team. Your offensive line is garbage juice. Your receivers minus Jalen Hyatt are subpar. Darren Waller was a waste of money. Y'all need Saquon to win a game, much less a championship. And I'm not all in on Daniel Jones either. New Orleans Saints. Dennis Allen and his coaches got to go. And I know more than plenty of Saints fans will agree with me. Especially the OC Carmichael. Your play calling was spotty. Your QB play was spotty. Your blocking was inefficient for the QB or anybody to do anything. Why did you bring in Derek Carr? For what? This? He also kind of got hurt. So, this is a spotty team being led by their defense, which is solid. Next, the Falcons. Desmond Ridder ain't it. I've came to the conclusion. I would like to apologize to everybody who tried to tell me that he wasn't it. And I wanted to hold out hope. But Desmond Ridder is not it. And Arthur Smith could lose his job if he sticks with it. At times, he looks clueless. He makes dumb mistakes. He looks like he doesn't know what he's looking at. He looks like he doesn't know what he's seeing. Sometimes he looks like he's not seeing the field very well. And if I can tell it with my naked eye, I know somebody else can tell you it. The defensive line isn't what it's supposed to be. It's a big disappointment. They looked lifeless and shut down. They had the talent with Bijan, Algier, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts, who isn't being used correctly. They have the talent. They just don't have the quarterback. They had the talent at everywhere else but quarterback. Now we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker is balling right now. We know what he really is, though, which is average. The defense has rejuvenated themselves against somewhat. Yeah, they've somewhat found their defense is getting there. Mr. Baker and Godwin and company have found themselves a little knack, a little niche, and they can run the ball pretty effectively now. New England Patriots, injuries are starting to really ramp up on the defensive end. You have Devon Jagashaw was on there. You have Matt Judon went to IR. Christian Gonzalez is done. Your O-line looks questionable at times. Mac did do a little too much, but this was a collective thing as well. They did not run the ball very well. They started sloppy, and it cost them that entire game. They had an opportunity to punch the Dallas Cowboys in the mouth, and if they had did that, New England probably would have won that game, if we're being completely honest. Now we're going to talk about the Broncos this week. The defense still could not stop a parked car at a red light, but they tightened up when they needed the most. Russ had been playing a lot better and lead them on that comeback victory. He did not turn the ball over. The defense, if you ask me, is consisted of Pat Surtain II and a family-sized bag of chips. They don't stop to run, they forget how to tackle, and something on that end has to change. And that's just me being me. The Tennessee Titans. This offense was different when the O-line does what it's supposed to do. We established the run very early and easily with Spears and Henry. Ryan Tannehill and play-action play. Good things happen. Who knew? Who knew? Nick Westbrook-Akine has some good things going on. Also, D-Hop is fitting in nicely. And the defense had a hit party. Like I said, 3 sacks, 9 quarterback hits. Secondary kept mostly steady. D-line was all up in Burrow's face in 5 seconds or less. Like, come on. Next, we got the Houston Texans. Here's my opinion. C.J. Stroud is borderline a top 10 quarterback right now. And Houston's defense is legit. They need offensive line and some more weapons, but they are talented and very competitive. There's a culture shift going on. They're very well coached, and within a year or two, they'll be taking the next step. That I wholeheartedly believe. Now we're going to talk about the Jets. This team is young, prideful, and immature, like I said earlier. And it's oozing out and blaming one person, sideline shenanigans, and more foolishness. They really aren't close to winning anything as long as the internal division continues. Zach played well in a loss. They need to harness that and build on it. Zach Wilson is capable of playing smart football. He needed that confidence boost. Don't sit there and try to play Jekyll and Hyde. It's not going to work. He doesn't need that. And 9 times out of 10, you can tell. I'm glad that the team rallied around him after he fumbled and owned it. I'm telling y'all, you appreciate little stuff like that. The Carolina Panthers. The pieces that they have together are not conducive to winning football games. Hence the record. Their offensive line couldn't protect Bryce Young if it could save them. Who's shown flashes. In turn, Mr. Young is having issues adjusting to the game speed and things like that. And they don't have a true number 1 receiver for Bryce Young. So, what's really good? That's really good. Now, we're going to go to Jori's jacked up tiers. And we're going to start at the top with my juggernauts, J-Up juggernauts. We have the Cowboys, the Eagles, the 49ers. Listen, guess who made it here? The Lions made it up here. We finally get to see the Lions up here. And the Buffalo Bills. Then we have a step under them, which is the Just Can't Miss Them crew. We have my Titans, the Dolphins, the Rams, the Seahawks, the Vikings, the Texans, the Chiefs, and the Jaguars. Interesting mix. Very interesting mix. Then we have the jump starts, more average teams to slightly below average. We have the Packers, the Chargers, the Cardinals, the Colts, the Saints, the Patriots, the Jets, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Falcons, the Commanders, and that's about it. Now we have our junkyard crew, which is the worst of the worst. We have our Giants, the Bears, the Broncos, the Panthers, the Steelers, and the Raiders. And I don't rate the Browns because I don't like talking about the Browns on my podcast. So there's that. In other news, Chase Claypool is probably done as a Bear. Like I said, a healthy scratch. His locker room presence is poor. It's like he's just acting like a spoiled brat because he doesn't want to be in Chicago. I wonder why. But, yeah, there's that. J.C. Jackson is headed back to New England after a season-ending injury to Christian Gonzalez. And J.C. Jackson did not work well with the Chargers. The Broncos let Randy Gregory go, which they wanted to focus on more young players. They're trying to get cheaper. They're trying to be younger. I feel like this is implication for something else bigger than what I know. Jamal Adams may face discipline for teeing off on the person dealing with his concussion, the independent concussion person. They're there to help you, man. Don't tee off on them. Don't mistreat them. They're trying to make sure you can play at the long run. Oh, and Von Miller, Cooper Kupp, and some others may be getting off IR fairly soon. Y'all know the drill. I want to thank y'all for listening to me today for this 1-year special of Jori Sports Stories. As always, I'm your host, Jori. And if you like what you heard, feel free to follow and share the podcast, and let's grow the audience. If you're on YouTube, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and share the channel. Let's grow the audience once again. Y'all can also find me over on Sports Empire Network on my new show on Saturdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Times. It's called Hoop Dreams and Touchdown Queens. I am also on the Coffee and Sports Morning Show over on the Empire Network every Wednesday. Thanks again for listening. Tune in next week for more NFL talk, and I'll see y'all later.